Alcatraz and the Knights of Crystallia. This is book three of the Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians series. 315 pages and 22 chapters. And it is really Scott Pilgrim versus the World vibes mixed with Alice in Wonderland. In the previous books, he's always been in the Hushland, so librarian controlled territory. Here he goes back to Nalhala, which is the capital of the Free Kingdoms, right? This has been something that's been talked about for the last two books. He finally gets to visit. So we learn more about the Knights of Crystallia, we learn more about the Free Kingdoms, just everything. And of course, it's a lot of fun. The setting is the capital city, and there's a lot more politics, but that's okay. There's just enough so it wasn't like overwhelming. But the setting specifically is the National Archives, not a library. So that's said at least like 100 times, but the conflict is a forgotten language book. So the father in the previous book, the goal was to rescue the father and grandfather. And so after rescuing him, the father is looking for books in the forgotten language. So if he is also looking for them, it goes to seem that the mother is also looking for him. So this is a whole family affair, and everybody's looking for these texts in the forgotten language. So a long lost grandfather, Alcatraz the First, he lived with all these people who had crazy, awesome magic, technology, talents, all that stuff. And he used the breaking talent to break his entire language so nobody could find out all the cool, awesome, crazy things that they can do. So it's just like these scribbles, these circles and lines everywhere, and you need these translator lenses in order to read it. And so there's only two pair of these glasses, and one of them is Alcatraz's father has it, and Alcatraz's mother has the other pair. So it makes for quite the adventure, and the goal being that everybody wants to find this bit of information. And so it's a little bit like diving down the rabbit hole in Alice in Wonderland because he's lived in the Hushlands his whole life. So everything that he thinks is technology, is maybe completely backwards. They don't like elevators, They think swords are more advanced than guns. Everything is completely different. And really, just the little things are crazy. So, new talents. He has an aunt who says inappropriate things at the wrong times, and a cousin who dances at inappropriate times as well. So, both fun and, matter to the plot. So good to see that. A big theme is fame and responsibility and fame. He saved the Free Kingdoms, or helped the Free Kingdoms twice in the first and second books, and so his story is growing. A royal member of the royal family wrote a book about him in which he's wearing a sombrero and does all these crazy things. But it's kind of fiction, but people take it as like he did these cool things. And so he's kind of a celebrity back home. And he also has the ability to marry, commandeer a vehicle, or, there's a couple other things. So it's kind of like the captain of a ship. Those are the things that he can do. And so he meets Bastile's mother and father and learns more about the Knights of Crystallia. And Bastile has to face her punishment for failing to protect the Smedries and also losing her sword. So, we already talked about the archives being the setting, and books in the forgotten language are the goal. But really, I want to talk about the things I liked about this book. Book three, I thought this was going to be a trilogy. Turns out there's 6 books. This cover is the Scholastic cover, so they're rebranding this year. So I urge you to buy the other type of books. They are much cooler looking. The covers are so much cooler, and I think it's Tor books instead of Scholastic. Anyways, it goes to the author instead of a giant company. So Scholastic is a good thing, but I'd rather go to an author than a giant company. In addition to buying your books used, which you should absolutely do. So, things I liked. Perspective shifts. Both of the parents, there's all kinds of things about, children having starry eyed, just putting all kinds of things about their parents. They can do no wrong in their eyes, all those cliches that you can think of. There's so many perspective shifts that happen here with Alcatraz and his parents. And I really, really liked that. To me, this book is a turning point in the series in multiple ways. So I really enjoyed that. There was some politics, but it wasn't overwhelming. So big plus in my book. Inhibitor's glass. I thought, of course, that had to be a thing, right? We've got all this cool magic, we've got all this cool technology. Of course, there has to be something that blocks it. So that to me was pretty sweet. I already talked about the commandeering. Big fan. Uh, the theme music. To me, it's hilarious that they would have a book with a music cover, right? Like you open the book like you would a holiday card and it plays music. To me, that was just it was just awesome. So a lot of fun there. Um, and really, a big part of it was half truths. He now has the truth finder's lens. And so there are librarians who can tell half truths that don't show up as truth or lie on the truth finder's lens. And that's something that is like super key. You can have somebody say something that's not committal either one way or the other. So very sharp life lesson to learn there. Last thing I wanted to talk about was, so there I was, a very Dale Carnegie saying, but he's retracing a memory, right? This is an autobiography. He just straight up says, right into the action, this is what happened. And so this should be by now a very familiar type of story. Jump into an action scene, survive the action scene, go rescue somebody who's in trouble or go to another, location, do something cool in that location, and then infiltrate a library or not a library, and then, further the plot by, surviving that whole adventure. So the first three have been pretty, they followed the template pretty, closely. And so I'm really looking forward to the next two or three books and hoping that it's not quite as regimented. So great series. Read it if you haven't. A lot of fun. And buy your books used.